Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I'm just going to give this a couple more seconds before I do my regular intros, because sometimes it picks up mid-thought stream on one live stream and not the other. So I want to make sure we're broadcasting efficiently in both places before I go ahead and do my regular intro. And let me make sure that we are broadcasting over to YouTube as well. I don't know why my alerts are not on. Let me double check. And I see we have a couple of viewers right now. There we go. Yep. Double check. Yep, everything looks good. Everything looks copacetic. So, yes, thank you, Katie. So, hello and welcome to another episode of Tarot by Hilary Live. I am your hostess with the mostest, Hilary of tarotbyhilary.com. That is Hilary with one L. I am a professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with the most beautiful of gifts, your own intuition. And please, please, please don't argue with me. Yes, my friend, you do indeed have intuition. So on tonight's episode, we have no agenda besides the usual astro-weather from Teresa Reed and the weekend forecast, in which I don't know which deck I'm going to be pulling from. Actually, I'll probably pull from the Game of Thrones Tarot by Liz Dean with art by, oh gosh, I can't remember who the artist is for the Game of Thrones official tarot deck. I have it here. Hold on, let me see. Because that is the deck that is closest to hand right now. Yes, Liz Dean did the guidebook for that, but let me give credit where credit is due for the illustrator, Craig Cross. Yes, Craig, so not Cross or Koss? Craig Koss is the illustrator for the Game of Thrones Tarot. So that's the one that I have closest to hand. So that's what we'll be using for the weekend forecast, if that's okay with everybody. Better be okay. And in between that, I have no specific agenda or thing to teach, besides mentioning that I will be taking a staycation next week. And so I'm not going to be accepting any appointments. It's actually a little bit of a funny story. I had determined that, and I had put that out there onto social media, but I had forgotten to block off that time. So there is one person that booked a reading with me tomorrow. And so, of course, I will be honoring that reading. But other than that, my schedule is blocked off for the next week. I am taking off from my day job, and I am taking a little bit of a break from seeing tarot clients. Just a week, but a week I think is a good amount. Need a little bit of a break. And I think we all do from time to time, even if we're not going anywhere, even though, the pandemic is still going on and we have no plans to travel at this time. You still need to take a break, even if you're not going anywhere. Otherwise, you don't realize how burnt out you actually are until you come to that point. And then you're realizing, oh yeah, I should have done this 6 months ago or a year ago, or I should have taken some time off, a month ago. And now I'm like past the point of feeling so fried out that I'm crispy. So yes. Katie says, nice, we need it. A breather. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think everyone does. It's not just me with a full-time job and also my own business. I think anyone, and even even people that don't have jobs, or are, for some reason or another not working. I think a lot of us get stuck with that whole needing to be productive in order to feel valued or worthy of time off, and I don't think that's the case. I think our productivity does not merit our worthiness. So if that resonates for you, then that message is for you today. So for me, right now, I'm taking a little bit of a break, a celebration. This is a celebratory drink. I have some of my Scotchy Scotch, a tiny one, since I do have appointments tomorrow. So it's going to be an early bedtime for me tonight, I suspect. So let us get into the astro weather for today. I know that we just recently had a new moon, so I feel like we're still under the influence of the new moon, which is a wonderful time to be setting goals and embarking on new projects and setting intentions as well. Ooh, I've got some flyaways going on here. And if you've been watching some of my IGTVs, I think I realized on camera a couple of days ago that I might have some my first gray hairs coming in at my temples, which I'm like very excited about, but also kind of mixed feelings about. I'm not sure if that was the lighting or if that's actually happening. So let me pull up our astrology from the wonderful Teresa Reed, aka the Tarot Lady, my forever on my ass business mentor. She's wonderful, but if you ever need a kick in the ass, that's definitely her energy. And she just recently came out with her new book, and I think actually it's not even out yet, and it's already a #1 bestseller on Amazon, I think. So I don't think it's even been released yet, and it's coming up #1 under either new releases or new pre-orders or soon to be released. I don't know, but a lot of people are getting. I think that people are actually receiving in their pre-orders like now, so that is wonderful news, and that is I'll pull up the name of her new book in a second. Just want to look up the Astro Biz Digest. Now, as always, I'm taking this astrology information from the wonderful Astro Biz Digest by Teresa Reed. It is a subscription service. $99, I believe, is a year-long subscription in which you get all of this astrology information monthly, weekly, and then each day. And it is geared towards entrepreneurs, but I find it very helpful in my own personal life. So let's take a look and see. And it's been a very hit or miss kind of week with regard to astrology. I've been seeing a lot of my friends or my acquaintances or some of my tarot reading colleagues have been noticing that it's been kind of a funky day energetically today, and also on Wednesday it was a little bit funky energetically. So let's take a look at the astrology and see if there's a reason for it. So Friday, contracts, negotiations, and meetings should be on the agenda today. That definitely bears out for my last day in the office for a week. I feel like I was just in meetings all day long to try and address any issues that might come up next week while I'm out. The Libra moon favors these activities. If you need to sign anything or host a meeting, this is your day. Some relationships need a diplomatic touch. Even if the other side is irritable, a bit of grace and leadership will turn the beat around. Tonight, networking opens doors. Make connections, and you could be plotting out a dynamic new partnership or joint venture soon. Power day for Libra, weekday for Aries. So, yeah, Me, I was a little bit hit or miss on that. New moon was yesterday at 5:48 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Oh, sorry. No, I'm not correct. Hold on. That was moon trines Pluto. Sorry about that. Let me look and see when the new moon happened, but I know it happened this week. New moon in Leo. Thank you very, very much. Yes, that was on the 18th. The new moon in Leo arrives on the 18th at 10:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So new moon in Leo was good or is good for starting creative projects or launching PR campaigns. A good new moon for debuting an original creative work, giving a presentation, hosting a live stream, set intentions around fame, visibility, and creativity. What else? Mercury entered Virgo on the 19th, and the sun is in Virgo on this 22nd, which is tomorrow. So that amplifies practicality for all my Virgos out there. So that was today alone, and this past week. Okay, so Saturday has a few nasty aspects in the morning to the moon, which could bring rude types and shit disturbers out of the woodwork. Don't bother trying to negotiate or meet anyone halfway. It won't work. Perfectionists take note. The sun enters Virgo at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We already talked a little bit about that. It's a very orderly vibe. Other than that, Saturday evening brings more challenging aspects with the moon, Pluto, and Mars, which means fights and drama. Do you want that? I don't. Lay low. Sunday puts the moon into mysterious Scorpio at 6:16 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the most intuitive of all the moons. If you get a feeling about a business decision, now is the time to trust that. Sunday and Monday will be superb for strategizing, working on top secret projects, and organizing financial plans or taxes. The moon and the sun will be in a lovely sextile at 7:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday, making Sunday morning perfect for PR. Hit up the media and get your face out there. Keep marketing going well into the evening when the moon is sextile with Mercury at 6:42 p.m. Sunday could turn out to be profitable if you're not afraid of showing up wherever you can. Saturday is a power day for Libra, weekday for Aries, and Sunday is a power day for Scorpio, weekday for Taurus. And if you want to check out more astrology from Teresa Reed, you can check out her website, www.thetarotlady.com. And I believe she does short one-card readings for each sign when it's the new moon and when it's the full moon. So I'm pretty sure there was a new moon post up there with one-card readings for each sign this past week when the new moon entered Leo. So you got all that, folks? Are we astrologied out or astroed out? Oh, and if you were here for last week's episode, I would really love to know if you experimented or if you saw the replay for last week's episode on the bridge technique to getting to the final outcome card you want. If you get a sucky final outcome card, that was last week's episode. You could have either watched the replay or you could have been here live working alongside me on this technique that I offered when you don't like your final outcome card. But we had a lot of examples, and I would love to know if any of you have any questions about last week's episode or if you experimented with that bridge technique between then and now. And if you have any questions about it, I would love to help to answer them. So let me know in the chat. And actually, let me see if I can pull up something else. Aha. Let me see if I can pull this up. Because I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about my staycation and the fact that I'm not taking on any appointments next week because I need a break. So let's see if I can show this. So, aha, okay, awesome. So Katie's got feedback about that. So very, very quickly, let me just take off the overlay here. My stars. And put up my tiny logo up here. So this is just an example of the schedule that I like to put up for, or availability for appointments that I like to put up at the beginning of every week. I usually put them up on Sunday night to show my general availability for taking appointments each week. As you can see here, this was the past week, or this current week, starting 8/17. I was closed on Monday and Tuesday for appointments because we were recording more episodes of the Card Slingers Coast to Coast podcast. No new episode today. But one of the episodes that we recently recorded was all about boundaries, and it was just so appropriate and exactly what I needed to talk about. And then I was teaching a workshop on boundaries for my coven as well. So you're going to want to check out that episode if you have weak boundaries, or if you feel like your boundary setting or maintaining boundaries, or the consequences of boundaries being crossed. You're going to want to listen to that episode. I feel like it's a must listen to because so many of us haven't been taught boundaries, or haven't had our boundaries been respected because we grew up in families where that's not taught. It should be taught by your family members, but often it's the very people that should be teaching you these boundaries so you can move into adult life as a sane and whole adult human being. It's those very people that end up crossing our boundaries the most. So I thought it was very interesting. So here I was closed Monday, Tuesday, and now I'm closed Saturday and Sunday as well. But I do have an appointment tomorrow morning that someone slipped in under the wire before I blocked off my appointment time. So of course I will be honoring that appointment. It's a new person I'm looking forward to reading for a new client. So that's awesome. Let me go ahead and hide that. So I probably will be putting up something to the effect of a little cute social media post that I will be taking a short sabbatical from tarot readings. A week. So Katie is sharing with us from last week's episode. What was amusing for me was the example you did fitted my friend's current situation. So I told her about your reading. We both had an amused chuckle about it. I can't remember what my example was. Was my example about writer's block? That was just a hypothetical, off-the-cuff kind of thing, but I'm glad to know that it was appropriate for your friends. And now you have some tools, or your friend has some tools to be able to address that. So Katie's also saying boundaries. What are they? Actually, if you guys are interested, I could probably show you a little bit of the slides that I shared with my coven, if you would like. Okay, Katie's saying yes, writer's block. Good to know. Good. I'm glad that my hypothetical ended up being a very real life example for someone, so that they can roll with it and actually use what the cards were suggesting. And I think we also got a new regular viewer to the broadcast as well, which is really, really awesome. So thank you all for attending last week's episode. I thought it was very helpful as well. Like realizing sometimes when you practice these new techniques, you realize that it can't cover every eventuality, but that's also okay. Because there's no specific tool that's going to be a catch-all tool that's going to solve every problem or every tarot problem or answer every tarot question. And I think that really speaks to the whole mystery of the tarot. Like there are some things that tarot can't answer, and that's okay, because there is uncertainty. There is that je ne sais quoi about tarot, where either it won't answer us on purpose because it's something that we just have to figure out on our own, or it answers and we don't know how it answers either. So those are it can be frustrating, but it can also be really magical as well. So for boundary setting, actually I'll just pull up one of the slides, or I'll try to. Let me see here. Can I link? Can I do it? Let me see if I can actually pull this up. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, Katie, I feel like we did do an episode on boundaries and boundary setting. Like we did a whole episode about it. It was a short episode, but it was still an episode about boundary setting. So let me see if I can just share my screen really quickly. I would like to share this tab. Okay. I'm looking over at the YouTube feed just to see if you guys can see this. And I'm gonna wait for a second. Because I don't wanna mess this up. Oh, here it is. Cool. So you guys can see this, right? All right, let me see if I can do audio only. And I would love to be able to pull this up more full screen, but let me do this in present mode. So can you guys hear me? First of all. Because I want to make sure I can actually show this. Let me hide this. All right, let me know if you guys can hear me, first of all. Like just put a yes, I can hear you, and yes, I can see the slides. Okay, cool. So a lot of this stuff, and I'm just going to go through these slides really, really quickly because I didn't really plan on teaching this tonight. But hey, if it's useful to you guys, absolutely. So the name of this particular presentation that I did was called Boundary Setting for Witches, but honestly, it's just boundary setting and just being aware that if you are a magical practitioner, It's almost as if boundaries are even more important if you're a magical practitioner, because you've got not only the mundane or the logical levels of boundary setting, you also then have the magical or the energetic levels too. Like, for example, a magical circle is a boundary to contain what you want in that circle, and also protect that circle from any outer energies that might take away or impact negatively on what you're trying to do within the circle. So boundary setting, a lot of this, I quote Brene Brown a lot in this particular presentation. So just, if you're not a Brene Brown fan, you're probably not going to like what I have to say. Just letting you know. So daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. Let me see if I can use my pointer on here too. So this portion of it is why I think that sometimes we set weak boundaries. It's because we're afraid of disappointing others, or we're afraid that the answer is going to be no, or we have that feeling of needing to set ourselves on fire to keep other people warm. If that resonates for you, go ahead and smash those heart emojis. Let me know. Just say hell yeah in the chat. So we all know that boundaries are important, whether or not you're a witch, but they can become super important to witches because boundaries work on the same energetic levels that we use for both our magical and our mundane efforts. And by the way, when I spell magical with a K, it is only to differentiate between sleight of hand, David Copperfield magicians versus magic workers, if you get my drift. Weak boundaries usually equal weak magic. Strong yet flexible boundaries, knowing that you can set boundaries and also change them if they are no longer working for you, equals out to strong and adaptable magic. This note over here is more directed towards my coven, because we have done a lot of work with empathy, with self-compassion, with loving kindness directed to yourselves. Because when you're kind to yourself, creating and keeping boundaries becomes the ultimate self-care. Setting boundaries is making clear what's okay, what's not okay, and why. And that last part is entirely up to you. And why? You don't need to provide an explanation for any or every boundary you have or any boundary that you set. And I think sometimes if you are shy about shying away from conflict, or feeling like you don't want to have an argument, and wanting to set those boundaries, sometimes I feel like we try and provide more explanation than is necessary to make our boundaries stronger, when actually when we provide a lot of explanation about that boundary, it ends up making it weaker, not stronger. Does that make sense to everyone? Just checking the chat really quickly. And actually, it's interesting, when I gave this presentation slightly to my husband before I even got to this part, because he wasn't looking at the slides, he was just hearing me talk out loud. He was just like, "Why do you need to explain it?" And I was just like, "I will get to that, honey. This is the reason why." Sometimes you don't need to explain it. And sometimes explaining it too much ends up weakening that boundary instead of strengthening it. Boundaries with people. You've got your personal boundaries. What are they? What happens when they're crossed? For example, for the coven that I directed this presentation to, we have unification agreements. We have agreements of behavior, what is and is not okay. And so our boundaries are very, very firm because we have agreed to these unification agreements every single year, and we modify those agreements every single year to see if they still are in keeping with our coven goals and our energy and, you know, what we feel that we stand for as a coven, as a working magical unit. Yeah. Will question your why. Exactly. So coming back to that. I just want to make sure. Can you guys see Katie's comments up on screen? Because there's a little bit of a lag between the YouTube stream and the Facebook stream. I'm just looking over. Yep. Okay, good. The why. Someone wanting to break them with question why and makes it hard to maintain. Exactly. And remember, not you. Yeah, exactly. Dina's saying marriages should be like covens. Exactly. Writing up the. Wow, you guys are really having, I guess it's resonating with you guys too. Writes up contracts on family RE boundaries. Yeah, we'll get to the family shit. Because this is something that we talked about a lot when I presented this stuff to my coven mates. I said to them, you know, some of this is not going to work at every time with every single person or group of people. For example, let me go ahead and rehide this and get back to the slides. The family shit is really hard. And I say that really, really hard for some people, definitely based upon prior experience or how you were treated in your family unit growing up. Sometimes boundary work with family results in agreeing to disagree, not discussing certain topics, or even estrangement. And I speak from personal experience about this because, unfortunately, I was estranged from my father for 15 years. And even when I reconnected with him, we never spoke about the reasons for the estrangement. And there was never really an apology or a reconciliation before he ended up passing away unexpectedly. Gosh, it's going to be coming up on 3 years ago now. So this is the reason we went into a whole big sub-tangent on family, because you would think that your family of origin would be the people teaching you about these boundaries, but it's often not the case. We're not taught about this in our family unit, and it ends up being our very own family members that end up crossing our boundaries the most. So, like, this stuff isn't easy, folks. It's not. It's kind of the simplest thing to find out where your boundaries are, but the harder thing is enforcing them. Friends, you've got levels of friendship. They're there. Don't deny it. What do you allow or expect from your inner circle versus acquaintances? This goes into what boundaries you want to set amongst your friends. So write up those contracts, Katie. But know that some of this is not going to be easy. And I'm telling you, enforcing the boundaries, it's a much harder row to hoe than actually setting the boundaries. It's enforcement that's usually the tougher part. So business boundaries are a lot easier to set, or a lot easier to set, in my opinion. And I guess this works very well into, you know, presenting this to my tarot audience. So hello, guys. In my tarot business, I know how I work best. So I've set up my boundaries to keep the container in which I work best intact. That means not accepting appointments during the workday. It means not allowing for emergency readings or same-day appointments. That means scheduling regular intervals of time off, and that's why I'm taking off time next week from readings, making my website clear with which questions I will not answer, and creating an ethics page. I have both of those things on my website, tarotbyhilary.com, if you want to go check that out. Reserving the right to refuse service to someone that oversteps boundaries, or firing clients that no longer adhere to my boundaries or align with my boundaries, or someone that's crossed my boundaries too many times. And I have a ton of examples. And remember that these things are easier to set over time. You might be a newer reader, just starting out, and you feel like you have to accept every single appointment. Again, I want to make it clear, we did just record an episode of the Card Slingers Coast to Coast podcast all about boundaries, especially gearing towards setting boundaries for your tarot business, because, you know, we're 3 professional tarot readers. So that was kind of what the question was posed to us. Like, how do you set boundaries? What boundaries do you set? Some of it is experimentation, and you know, some of it can be making mistakes or allowing that 3 a.m. I need a tarot reading from you phone call before you realize, oh, that's a boundary for me, because I don't want people calling me at 3 a.m. expecting me to pull out my tarot deck when I'm fast asleep. That's where you have to set a boundary. So it can be experimentation to find out what boundaries you have with your tarot business. This was a really kind of like throwaway slide, I would say, but using technology to safeguard boundaries can be an option for you, like turning off your phone, like using the do not disturb feature, promising yourself not to respond to work messages or calls sent to personal accounts, using an out of office responder. You better believe I set that before I signed out for the day today. Setting a cutoff time for answering emails or texts. And I've got that in my tarot business as well. So here's where the rubber meets the road, folks. It's the conflict that happens when you set your boundary and when you try and enforce your boundary. The conflict that can occur in setting boundaries can cause people to make flimsy ones, or allow them to be crossed without consequence, or not set any boundaries at all, especially if you're conflict avoidant. Here's the issue, though. It's far kinder and resulting in less conflict in the long run when you have an uncomfortable conversation at the start than trying to unravel a situation that never had any boundaries to begin with. That's part of the reason why the whole family boundary thing is, I think, one of the hardest things to work on. Going back to comment section. Oh, great. So I guess Dina did catch that episode on boundaries. Either that was the boundaries episode, or that was the episode on the bridge technique. I'm not sure which one you're referring to. So the solution here is just the facts, keeping it to the facts of the situation, always setting clear expectations from the get-go, because I think when setting boundaries, or when boundary issues are crossed, sometimes it's because of unexpressed or unclear expectations that people are putting upon you. So in those cases, you can simply have a list of consequences, and you can allow that person to choose from those consequences, almost like a choose your own adventure for when you cross my boundaries. This is what's going to happen, A, B, or C. And it's your choice what happens, depending on when you cross the boundary or how you cross the boundary. So you want to take presumptions and feelings out of the equation, or put the onus squarely back where it belongs, using the following phrase: I feel blank when you do blank. Or just simply, I feel. Because you know what? Your feelings are how you feel. There's no wrong way to feel about a situation or about a person. Sometimes you feel a way and you don't know the reason why. You just know that's how you feel. You can even sub in, I think this, when you do this, or just simply, I think. Making sense to everybody? Oh, conflict avoidance, who, me? Yeah, I mean, this is not easy stuff, guys. And I'm not pretending to know all the answers. In fact, I really don't know all the answers. I'm just kind of presenting, this is what works for me. This is what doesn't work for me. You take what works for you and leave the rest behind. Yes, the Card Slinger. Well, the Card Slinger episode on boundaries hasn't been released yet. So we just recorded it this week. So be on the lookout for it. Also, though, I am also ready to pull bridge spread out if needed. So score for both. Yes, these are tools in your back pocket to use as needed. Just remember that not every tool is going to be the solution for every tarot or life problem. Yeah, I feel the worst boundary crosser will gaslight those feelings. Exactly. But you know what? This kind of work is best done ahead of time. And sometimes what you need to do for this is create scripts on how you think someone will respond so that you're not having that 5 hours later, you have that perfect response. You kind of have to do prep work when regarding boundaries, because especially with family members, you know how a family member is going to cross your boundary. You just do. It kind of cuts both ways. Your family can get under your skin better than anyone on the planet, but also you know how to get under your family member's skin better than anyone else on the planet. So knowing how they're going to piss you off ahead of time, because you definitely do know, can help you to prepare scripts for the next time around, right? Oh, yes, exactly. Tina, yes, exactly. That was the episode on bad readings. Yes, absolutely. Especially when Melissa said that she doubled down on the bad reading, and we're just like, oh, no, you didn't. Oh, you did, didn't you? And all of us aren't immune to that from time to time. And I think that's part of the reason why we have boundary problems, is because we're helpers. We genuinely do want to come from a place of help. But sometimes when we don't establish these boundaries, we do end up setting ourselves on fire or bending over backwards to keep other people warm or happy or accommodated. And we end up being miserable because of it. So the solution here, this is not the only phrase, like you can create as many scripts as you need to, or as many, well, if they say this, I'm going to say this, or if they say this, I'm going to come back with this. And it isn't like a long script. It's just simply preparing yourself in the way that you think they will respond. And also being open to if that doesn't happen. And wouldn't that be wonderful if they actually, if instead of being argumentative, they actually come back with, oh, okay, well, that seems fair. Won't that be a delightful surprise that you don't have to use any of the scripts that you come up with? I think so. So going back to the whole magical portion of this, a circle is a boundary. A magical circle is a boundary. The circle contains the magic within and also protects and keeps anything or anyone with ill intentions out. It's a delineation, both magical and mundane, to leave your shit at the door and be present in what the group is about to do. You can also say this for your tarot reading table or your space in which you do tarot readings. That's absolutely a boundary and a container for the work as well. So like I said, we just recorded an episode about this, which is going to be called Shields Up, Learning Boundaries. So we have a ton of resources. You're going to be able to find that at the show notes when that episode goes live. And I don't know when it's going to go live, because I think we've stockpiled recordings up until, I think it's 6 episodes. So this might be the 6th episode to come. But I'm telling you, if you have problems with boundaries, you're going to want to listen to this episode whenever we release it. So here's some of the reading list. Dare to Lead by Brene Brown. Very, very helpful. I know it's geared toward leadership stuff, but actually there's a lot of vulnerability work in there, and there's a lot of boundary work in there as well. Another gem that I read in that book was vulnerability without boundaries is oversharing. So I'll say that again because it was particularly resonant to some of my students from Wednesday. Vulnerability without boundaries is oversharing. Codependent No More by Melanie Beattie. Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. Watch out. It might be a little bit God preachy. So these are resources, but from both me and from Jamie Elford, my co-host, one of my co-hosts. Boundaries, Where You End and I Begin by Anne Catherine M.A. Good intro for empaths and others who have a hard time understanding the concept of the word rules versus boundaries. Unfuck Your Boundaries by Faith G. Harper. Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free by Nancy Levin. And The Modern Witch's Guide to Healthy Boundaries by Ethany. That is a link. You can just go there, ethany.com/modern-witches-guide to healthy boundaries. You see all the dashes in there. But I'm sure you can just go to ethany.com and search for boundaries and it'll come up. And I have a whole bunch of them from here as well. So Brene Brown's 3 Ways to Set Boundaries, that's on Oprah.com, Healthline.com, Mental Health and Setting Boundaries. Again, that's the Ethany website, who is wonderful, and also PositivePsychology.com. Great self-care starts by setting healthy boundaries. I think that's the last slide, folks. What do you think of them apples? Ah, yes, exactly. Yeah. And Katie, good advice, not already knowing your family's weakness. Like, hey, if you know if they know your weakness, you know their weakness too. So I think it really helps not to exploit their weakness, but also to respond in kind when they cross their boundaries. Not in a tit for tat kind of way, but more of a cognizance of how you think they're going to react when you set a boundary. Dina says, yes, exactly. That's a wonderful example of a boundary that I set in my tarot business. Do you limit tarot readings to 3 months too? I limit tarot readings to between tarot readings to at least a moon cycle for a situation. If it's the same situation, I'm going to say give it a month. And then I'll attempt to read on it again. But for bigger readings in which it's like a big life change or a move or career change, then I'm probably going to say give it 3 months or give it 6 months, come back to me in 6 months. It really does depend on the situation that the client was asking about, truly. Important topic. All right, let me stop sharing. And let me come back on screen. Hi again, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed that real crash course. Like, I didn't plan on teaching that tonight, but there you go. I mean, now I've taught it kind of 3 times at this point. Once to my coven, once to my husband, and now once to you guys. So I'm starting to become an expert here on boundary issues. And that again, this is the reason why I'm saying, like, I don't pretend to be an expert on this. I'm just giving you the tools of what worked for me, what may have not worked for me, and passing it along to you in case these tips, tools, tricks might work for you. So, yes. A moon cycle. I would say a moon cycle would be like the minimum, especially for like a bigger reading. Like if I've done 3 to 5 cards for each individual question, maybe less than a moon cycle. But if I've done a big Celtic cross, maybe a moon cycle, maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. And it really does depend on how much work the client has been doing as well, and also giving it time to marinate and giving time to let things percolate or move. Because if you do readings too close together, there's going to be no movement. And also the cards aren't going to move either, which is really, really freaky. But I promise you, it has happened with some of my clients where I look at their cards like a month later, and some of the same cards come up in the same position. And I'm just like, am I misremembering this, or didn't we have this very similar reading? Like, what did you do? Like, what? Because I do give homework to my clients when there's, you know, big issues happening, and it's just like, okay, well, you want to put in motion X, Y, and Z before you want to come back to me again, because so often it's sequential, you know, like X needs to happen, then Y, then for Z to happen. So if you don't have those two steps, you're going to be missing that third step or that outcome that the client wants. So I've seen people come back to me and the same cards come up, and I say, well, did you do some of the things that we talked about last reading? And they're just like, no. And I'm just like, then why do you think the cards are going to change? Now you're just wasting your money. It's just like, I'll read the cards either way, but if this reading is the same reading as you had last month, then you're kind of wasting your money, honestly, because it's just like, I already told you, or the cards have already told you what you need to do. You just need to go and do it. You know, I know, easier said than done for some of the situations, but sometimes the answer is like, just do the damn thing. Because if you don't do the damn thing, you're not going to see what happens as a result of it. And you're always going to be percolating, but not actually like committing to a path. Because sometimes that's the key ingredient there. You have to commit to a path to know if it's the wrong one or the right one. I know that's very, very scary. It's to committing to a path sight unseen, or feeling like it's the right path, but not being sure. But like, we all have that kind of uncertainty, you know? You a boundary bitch. Yeah, hell yeah. And I say that to my clients too. I do. I say it to them. I'm just like, you need to be a boundary bitch, you know, or I'm sorry to be a boundary bitch, but like, this person's been walking all over you, or you need to switch over from being a queen of cups to a queen of swords in this situation. Like, I know you want to feel your feelings, and I know you want everyone to get along or just going with the flow, but sometimes you need that big ass sword of truth, and you need to like just cut through the bullshit and be like, no, this is what I want, or this is what I think, or this is the truth of the matter, you know? So definitely boundary bitch. Exactly. Yeah, it's just a needed subject. It called all of us. Exactly. Dina's saying free will and personal responsibility. And isn't that always the way? It's like, you're kind of pointing out, like, when people cross your boundaries, I think it says way more about them than it says about you. Because that means, like, there's no respect there. You know, like, and especially if you have expressed that boundary time and time again and people continue to cross it, it's because they either didn't know, you need to be louder about it, or you need to actually instill some consequences. And consequences can be anything between saying, I didn't like how you approached that situation, or I wish you had talked to me about that before making that decision. Like, that's a decision that involves me. So I really wish you had talked to me about that before committing to this, because now you've committed me, and I'm sorry. Now it's going to make you look foolish because I can't commit to that. You spoke for me. I know, right? Like, everyone like, whoa. Like, I felt the energy in the room kind of go like, oh. But am I being mean about that, or do I have any like kind of negativity, or is it just done with a straight neutral tone? That's what I was saying before with the whole just the facts. You have to have that neutral tone, because otherwise none of this works. If you come at it from a place of anger, if you come at it from a place of negativity or a place of disappointment, it's just not going to work, because they're going to hear your emotion. They're not going to hear like the underlying issue here, where it's just like, no. Like, no, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm not disappointed. I'm not this, I'm not that. Or like people ascribing these emotions that you're having that you're not actually having. And it's just like, No, I'm just expressing, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or the best boundary of all, no. Or no, I'm not doing that. And it becomes very uncomfortable. It becomes uncomfortable when you start to do this work because you're not used to it. All right. And I know I'm going to tell you this, it's not going to be comfortable when you're doing this. It's going to get easier the more you do it, but it's not going to be comfortable on the outset. But you need to assert the boundary and then hold. Don't walk back. Don't walk it back, because then you're going to ruin all of your good work if you walk it back. Hold in the discomfort. I promise you the other person will back down. And if they don't back down, that's a consequence. Right, exactly. Well, it's my Aries, yes. Well, the fiery, the anger part, triple Aries. Let's not forget, people. Like, all of you regular viewers here know my natal chart probably better than I do at this point, and that's kind of scary. But it's true. Let me make sure that I don't have my flux softener, screen softener on right now, because it's distorting the images and the colors. It's your Aries. You just, exactly, Dina, you just sounded firm. And notice, like, I'm not going to discriminate. I'm not going to say that we've got mostly women viewers here or people that that ascribe as female presenting, but we do have a lot of females that watch this. And for people that are female presenting or raised female, this stuff is even harder, because there is this like kind of like assertive is misconstrued as aggressive. Aggressive is misconstrued as being a bitch. Like there's a lot of stuff to unpack surrounding boundaries. But notice what Dina said. You just sounded firm. Firm, assertive. That's what we're trying to go for when we are talking about boundaries. There shouldn't be any kind of emotional undercurrent happening when you're expressing that. It should be very like cut and dry. And it's not gonna, I'm telling you, it's just not gonna be comfortable at first. Trust me, it's not. And especially with your family. Your family should be teaching you from a child, how to assert your boundaries and how to, work with boundaries, bodily autonomy, and, like kiss your Aunt Gertrude goodbye. I don't want to do that. Oh, well, how dare you? Like that can turn into potentially scary stuff if you're not careful. So it's very surprising to me that we still don't have this sense of teaching that as children, because it's even harder to learn this stuff when you're an adult. Yeah. Holding on to those boundaries is always the hardest part. Thinking about the consequences is a way to make them realize their choices on breaking my boundaries. Because, yeah, it is. It's their choice. It's just like, choose your own adventure on what your consequence is going to be because you decided to break this boundary. Yes. I like the thought of using consequences to hold my boundaries. Exactly. And the consequence doesn't have to be dire, or it doesn't have to be, a huge mountain or making it a huge conversation. It's just simply, okay, well, now this can't happen, or now this, or, oh, I'm sorry that you thought I was free on Thursday. I'm not. Can we do it another time? That's a boundary. That's a boundary. It doesn't have to be difficult, but unfortunately, in this culture, in this society, we cannot have discussion or debate without it turning personal and ugly very, very quickly. We don't have a form of civil discourse, or it's a rarity instead of the norm, which is unfortunate. So that's what makes boundary setting and conversations about boundaries even more difficult, because so often it becomes this crazy, strange personal attack when it's just like, no. Like, for example, a boundary that my husband was talking about was just like, I don't like talking about my marriage or my personal life at the office. I just don't. And it's usually not him, it's other people. So I was just like, okay, well, how do you want to approach that? And so, it's about thinking about what those situations are and kind of brainstorming how you're going to react to those situations when they happen. Or refusing to engage is another boundary enforcement. So here's another. I would be happy to answer any questions anyone has, or any particular boundary issues. Remember, we are in a public forum here. Any particular ones they want to discuss, it's up to them. But I want to leave with this. But feel free to ask any questions while I'm making my final statement on boundaries. Remembering that as soon as you express or create a boundary, there will be someone immediately there to test it. Immediately, without fail. Without fail, folks. When you, for example, when you say, I'm no longer offering discounts on my services, guaranteed someone's gonna be asking you to make the exception within a day of you exerting that boundary. It is that kind of saying, if you give an inch, they'll take a mile, but it really is that saying is around because it's kind of true. It is. And what I really love about this topic, even though it's a difficult topic, and it's definitely easier said than done, is the moments when you do this work and people actually respond in the way that you want them to, or in the way that you don't expect. Because we remember, you want to leave that room for openness and for good behavior to happen, instead of like, going down the rabbit hole of everything that could go wrong or how they could say X, Y, Z. Leave space and grace for those moments where people do get it. Another good example of this, and I apologize if this person is watching or watching the replay, but the other day someone reached out to me almost as if we had made plans or we had spoken about making plans. And I just responded back with a question, which was, am I missing a conversation? And it was very matter of fact. And it was very like, I'm sorry. Did I miss a conversation that we had? Because I don't remember talking about that or making plans. So here's another really great phrase. And remember, go ahead and ask me any questions you have before we move on to the weekend forecast, okay? A great phrase that I found from Allison Green's book, Ask a Manager, is, and let me pull it here, because I have like a stack of books on like references and boundaries and where I cited from right here, right now. Brene Brown's book is on the top of the pile. You can see the corner of the pile right here. Or at least I think you can. I don't know. So this is a really, really great book. And it is not just geared towards managers. It's geared to like everybody. Because it says here, how to navigate clueless colleagues, lunch-stealing bosses, and the rest of your life at work. So this is more of like cubicle-y kind of stuff. But I have this Post-it notes But I can't remember if it comes from this book, but she also has a wonderful blog where she takes on readers' questions and she answers them. And it's just simply called Ask a Manager as well. I think askamanager.org or .com, I think, will take you to the same place, but it's Allison Green. But one of the things that she recommends, and I like always pull from here or from that blog for like scripts on how to handle things, because I am a manager at my day job, is the phrase, can you tell me what happened there? Or what happened there? Come at it from curiosity rather than from anger or from pissiness or from disappointment. Just what happened there? We talked about X, Y, and Z. What happened there? It's very, very effective, and people don't get offended or defensive about it. And I think that's where we get stuck with boundaries. We exert the boundary, and then people get defensive, and then so they get aggressive or offense. Like they go on defense, and then they feel like the need to defend themselves. And instead of that, it kind of like short circuits that need to be defensive, and just asking like, what happened there? Like we talked about this, but this went this way. What happened there? Yes, holding on to those boundaries is always the hardest part. Thinking about the consequences is a way to make them realize their choices on breaking my boundaries, and using consequences to hold the boundaries. I don't know if I had displayed that before, but I wanted to re-emphasize that. It's a choice. It can be a choice, absolutely. So any other questions, comments, concerns before we wrap up and go into the weekend forecast? And I will probably rename this episode into Boundary Setting Part 2. Because the first boundary one was very, very short, and it was basically very glib, I think, or a little bit too glib. And I hadn't really gone into the research behind boundary setting, what to do, getting a lot of resources and help, because it's like, this is not easy stuff. It's just not. Let me make sure that my computer is plugged in. Ah, much better. Speak now or forever hold your peace. And I'm going to go ahead and put up the timer. I don't know if you guys can hear it, because I've got my headphones plugged in. I'm sure you can, though. Can you hear it? Yeah, we're on about a 22-second delay between YouTube and Facebook. So, yeah. Boundaries aren't easy stuff, and it needed a part 2. Thank you for doing it again today. You're very, very welcome. I know it's not easy, not in the slightest. Exactly. All right, let us move on to the weekend forecast, right? All right. Where did I just put my deck? Okay. So any requests for a tarot deck or an oracle deck before I do the pull from the Game of Thrones tarot deck? Because I think it's been a long time since I used this for a weekend forecast, if ever. All right. I will take your silence as consent. So we are doing the weekend forecast from the official Game of Thrones tarot deck by Liz Dean, illustrations by Craig Koss. This is what it looks like. Back is the Iron Throne, and this is the guidebook. I actually have my Game of Thrones tarot in this cute little tarot bag that my friend Destiny made for me. And also I have a matching tarot cloth to put my cards on from Destiny as well. So thank you, Destiny. But let me grab, if I can, the actual packaging. I think this is from Chronicle Books, if I'm remembering correctly. But the packaging is really, really awesome for this particular deck. So don't feel like you have to have a tarot bag or anything for certain decks. If the packaging is good, and the packaging for newer decks have been like really excellent lately with like magnetic closures, it really defeats the purpose of needing a separate tarot bag, because sometimes for older tarot decks, you would get a flimsy cardboard box, which would kind of not protect your cards, especially the edges of your cards would get nicked because it's not providing any real protection because it's just a flimsy cardboard box. So let me grab the packaging so you can see it, which is all the way at the bottom of one of my piles. So here you go. It's the Game of Thrones Tarot. It is the official Game of Thrones Tarot deck. And this is the innards. So it's got room for the guidebook over here, and then it has room for the cards right here. So you don't need a separate bag for this. I think it's quite nice, and it is by Chronicle Books, but with official license from HBO home box office, Game of Thrones. And it was designed by Michael Morris, text by Liz Dean, and illustrations by Craig Koss, and it was produced in 2017. So if you guys are Game of Thrones nerds, and you watch through all the way to the end, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I am going to say that the meanings of some of the characters that got chosen for certain cards in this deck, I probably would not have chosen them after the series ended, just based upon their character arc. And if you all know what I'm talking about, don't put it in the chat. Don't spoil it for people that haven't seen it. But yeah, if you know what I'm talking about, especially if we get a card that's one of the characters that had a surprising and kind of disappointing arc to their character, don't say anything in the chat. So let us go for the weekend forecast. Oh, well, that's kind of nice, and also doesn't give away too much, which I'm grateful for. That would have kind of sucked if I had just given that caveat of like no spoilers in the chat, and then we came to a card where it had like a plot point that was like pretty large. I do have the companion book here. I am capable of reading this deck without the companion book, but I feel like For a themed deck like this one, I think the companion book is very helpful to understand the choices that they made when choosing these particular characters or situations to represent the energy of that tarot card. And remember that Liz Dean is a tarot expert. She's written a number of books on divination and tarot, and I've also met her in person. She actually signed this when I went to the Masters of the Tarot weekend with Rachel Pollack and Mary Kay Greer. She was one of the 3 other teachers that was there. Lovely, lovely lady. Hi, Liz, if you happen to be watching it. She's and she knows her stuff. So don't feel like if you happen to get the Game of Thrones tarot deck, don't feel like it's kind of a throwaway. She knows what she's talking about, and all of this tarot knowledge really went into creating this deck. It's not like just a kitschy, throwaway themed deck. It does actually function as a tarot deck. Just want to give that caveat, because some of the decks that have been created, for example, the Witches Tarot or Tarot of the Witches, which was the companion tarot deck to the movie Live and Let Die, I think, where Jane Seymour played Solitaire the Tarot Reader. Apparently, that tarot deck kind of reads like shit, or so I've been told. We're not talking about that for Game of Thrones tarot. Okay. So we are getting the 9 of Cups reversed, so this, for this weekend's forecast. And so at a glance, it looks like we've got Sam Tarly with his beloved books behind him and 9 cups on the bookshelf. And he's seated in that traditional Rider-Waite-Smith position of the smug kind of person, like, here are all my cups. So 9 of Cups is actually a really positive card, but we do have the reversal. So it's almost as if it's like got this sense of success, but also kind of defining what does success mean to you. Especially if you are familiar with Game of Thrones and different scenarios associated with this character, like, his family doesn't see his version of success in the same way or as success. They think he's a fucking coward, and he actually gets sent away. And that's first season stuff. So I don't think I'm giving too much away, but he's sent away to the Wall to be able to become part of the Night's Watch, because he's so cowardly that his father wants nothing to do with him. So he's just like, if you don't go, I'm going to tell your mother, like, we went hunting and there was an accident and you died. And basically his father threatened to kill him if he didn't go, because he was a coward. But Sam has a very interesting story arc, but he is very, very smart, and this is one of his happy places, is being in a library surrounded by books. And he trains to become a maester, basically, which is a knowledgeable person. Almost, I wouldn't say it's someone that's a spiritual advisor, but someone that just has a lot of knowledge of many different things. So are you guys seeing this? Because I'll read from the guidebook in a second. Just want to make sure that I'm still broadcasting, because you all are very quiet right now. I'm sure it's just because you're listening, but I wanted to make sure that I was actually broadcasting still. 75. So that's just what I know about Sam at a glance, and about where he's seated. And it has that nod towards the Rider-Waite-Smith imagery, but it's the character from Game of Thrones, or one of the many characters from the ensemble in Game of Thrones. So Dina's saying a resounding yes. Yeah, so yes, Samwell Tarly sitting under 9 cups at the Library of the Citadel, the seat of the Order of Maesters. So I got it right. I didn't need to know. I kind of got it. So the key meanings of the 9 of Cups is wishes, reward, happiness, and sharing. But remember, it did come up reversed for us. So the reversed meaning is delays, disconnection, desperation. Refocus and put personal relationships above the need to succeed. Alternatively, you may be eclipsed by someone else's showy success. So what I would say for us, and I'm going to hold him upright, but remember it is reversed. I would say for us, don't fall into comparison syndrome this weekend. Just because someone is successful or seeming successful, one, doesn't mean that that's necessarily true. They just may be really, really good at Instagram and showing off the bright side and the filtered version of their life. And don't compare yourself to somebody else's middle or end as well, because then you're gonna feel disappointed in yourself instead of realizing that you're on your own journey. And also maybe the person that you're comparing yourself to doesn't have it that great. You know, they just might be good at image rather than true success. Also, this is my own personal interpretation of the Nine of Cups reversed. And I say it sometimes when the Six of Wands comes up reversed, is that kind of defining your version of success, what success truly means to you, because it doesn't look the same for everyone. And I really do think that what I initially said about Sam is, you know, to his father and to his brother, he's a coward and he's not heroic and he's not anything. And he gets sent away to the Night's Watch because they can't deal with him. And his brother ends up being like the hope of his family name instead of him, which I think, if I'm remembering correctly, it's his younger brother that ends up inheriting, you know, or ends up being the favored child rather than him, because their version of what success is not what Sam is. But if you know Sam's story arc and you know his family's story arc, I think I would prefer to be Sam in the library rather than his father and his brother. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not spoiling anything. So Dina says, good advice. Good. Okay, great. So don't compare yourself to other people, because you have no idea what they're going through. And also they might be just really good at hitting those filters on Insta and, you know, getting themselves at the right angle and being like, YOLO, this is my morning smoothie, and I am up at 7 a.m. every morning drinking a green drink and doing in my yoga and doing in my meditation. It's just like, folks, that's probably not how their life really, really is. And if you know me, if I have the opportunity to sleep in, I'm going to sleep in. You can totally be spiritual and not be a morning person. I promise you, that's me. Okay, I think that's it for tonight's episode. Oh my goodness, we got through a lot, folks. A lot. So thank you all for joining me. I hope your weekends go well. I don't know yet if I'm going to do an episode next week, because I am off all of next week, from my day job and from taking tarot appointments. So we'll see if we'll have another episode next Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will certainly let you all know. If I decide to cancel, I will let you know. As always, I'm always communicating as much as I possibly can when I can. Great episode. Have a great weekend, everybody. You as well. So, as always, if you find this information helpful, if you have been having a problem with boundaries, I thank you for watching. If you have a friend that has had problems with boundary setting, please feel free to share this, sprinkle that into their feed if you feel like it will be helpful. I thank you Thank you for watching. Just a reminder, we do this every Friday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's our regular time, but I will let you know if I decide to cancel and take the week off for real week off. Yeah, I think that's it. Have a good weekend, everyone. Have a nice week off. Thank you very much. And it is also my wedding anniversary this weekend. So that's part of the reason why we're taking off. So I hope to do something fun, but it's definitely going to be a staycation because, you know, COVID. So with that in mind, I hope you all stay safe and stay sane. Get away from your screen if you can for a little while. Buy yourself some flowers. Do something nice for yourself. Remember that you are a human being, not a robot. You're not supposed to be in front of a screen for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's going to harm you. And your eyes are totally going to liquefy in your eye sockets. So thank you all for watching. Once again, I am Hilary, professional tarot reader, demystifying the mystical and putting you in touch with the most beautiful of gifts, your own intuition. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you the next time.